a guy posted and said, "Hey, we're trying to take down this data center. The data center is 28 million. When I say take down, meaning they're trying to acquire the data center. They've already got pre-approval, but I started talking to them about, well, what does that look like? I want to join. I'm an investor. How much is going to cost me to get in as an investor? What are y'all doing business development on that? How are you going to get people in? Because at this time, I think it's like 53% empty right now. So what does that look like? So I started talking to them about.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the TechTual Talk podcast, where I'm your host, HD, and we got a lovely guest for y'all. You may know her from Women in Linux. Her name's Tamika Reed, and y'all are in for a treat with this one, man. She speaks her mind. She has a lot of skin in the game. But I appreciate everybody. If you're tuning in right now on any of the streaming platforms, please thumbs up, download the podcast for me, share it out to your friends if you enjoy it. And if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're interested in tech content, learn how to level up your career, and more. But without further ado, let's welcome our guest. All right, everybody, we have Miss Tamika Reed, a woman in Linux. And I'm finna go ahead and catch you guys' attention real quick. We're on a panel a couple of weeks ago, and she said she was trying to buy a data center. And I'm 30. I ain't heard nobody talk about buying a data center before, well, that I've actually came in contact with. And I know this interests me, so I know it's gonna interest y'all. So can you tell us a little bit about wanting to
Yeah.
buy this data center?
Yep. So to give you some history. So for me, I've been researching, like, what is it like to have your own hedge fund? What is it like to have a private equity fund? We see what's going on where a lot of the hedge funds and even the private equity funds have gotten together and they bought whole subdivisions, and they'll buy a whole subdivision and you rent them out, right? So I'm like, okay, well, how do you create one? So I ended up going to this conference in Vegas when followed Bridger Pennington on YouTube, and been following him on Instagram, and I was like, man, what does that look like? How can I create a trust fund, right? I mean, not a trust fund, but a hedge fund. We just got through talking about trust funds. But I was like, how can I create a hedge fund? And what would I want in that hedge fund? Or what would I want in that private equity fund or syndication? Right. And so I started doing research, and I went to the conference. And at the conference, it was people there that was like, hey, I have a real estate fund. We're at 100 million. Hey, I'm buying pharmacies. Hey, we're buying car washes. Hey, we're over here doing X, Y, and Z. Well, being a part of that, I was able to get into the Slack, because I joined the group. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and create my own private equity fund, right? And so I joined that group, and in that group, a guy posted and said, hey, we're trying to take down this data center. The data center is 28 million. When I say take down, meaning they're trying to acquire the data center. They've already got pre-approval, but I started talking to them about, well, what does that look like? I want to join. I'm an investor. How much is going to cost me to get in as an investor? What are y'all doing business development on that? How are you going to get people in? Because at this time, I think it's like 53% empty right now. So what does that look like? So I started talking to them about what I can provide into that and so forth. So we're at that stage right now. In fact, I got a call today to talk more about just what that looks like. And there in this particular group, I could come in as a limited partner or as a GP. I prefer to go as a general partner and let everybody else who are investors come in as a limited partner, or I can come in as a limited partner. I prefer to come in as a GP because now we start looking at multiple data centers, not just one, but multiple data centers, right? So again, what is that? How do we get there? How do you become that GP? Well, you need to become an accredited investor, and an accredited investor is going to tell you that you need to at least have a million in net worth. You also, or you can have as a married couple 300,000 for the last 2 years as your income, or 200,000 for the last 2 years if you are single, and or you could take this Series 65. I think the Series 7, and I think the Series 92, but don't quote me on the 92 one. Or you could have had experience managing a fund that's over a million. So that kind of that person who's managed it can kind of classify you as an accredited investor, and you can get in that way. So is there something to be said of why I pushed for the goal for people to try to get to 200,000? It's because I have the ability now to be a part of that versus me trying to come up with the entire 28 million to come, to go get it myself. I can be a part of a group that has some funding, that has some traction, that's already doing something, and I can go on and learn from that, and also come back over here and say, "Oh, I see how they did that. I can structure my deal. My deal's my private equity fund and my hedge fund the way I want to structure it, but I have some knowledge as well too. So it's twofold for me."
That's nice because I know everybody's like, man, what, I mean, but that's good though because I mean, like we talked about on that panel,
Mm-hmm.
exposure is just one of those things, especially for our people. It's like probably one of the biggest things I say, like just to preach about, because once your mind is open on stuff, then you start thinking small, and then you just start thinking bigger, and you may not reach that big goal, but say your goal might say I want to make $1 million, but you end up making 750, half a
Mm-hmm.
million. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
opposed to at first you just were trying to aim for 100K.
Right.
As we know with inflation and everything else, that 100 feeling like about 65 to 70 now.
Yep. It's
So you got
tight.
to keep on going past that.
It's tight. The market is tight, and I hear a lot of people talking about, the layoffs and so forth. But on the federal side, I haven't seen layoffs. We just saw the guy that came out this week that won the $13.49 billion contract for defense. He's worked, and I've been preaching this for the past 3 or 4 years. Space Force is hiring. The U.S. Air Force is hiring. They're looking for people, and they're not even looking for people to be cleared. They're looking for people to be trainable and go from there because it's just that much work, right? But again, when I say that, I'm not talking about just be hired as an employee. You can hire my company who has a group of employees and then go from there, right? We can have a group of people that of us that's together, that we may have uh, this company that we built, and we go in and we do problem solving. So it's multiple ways to skin a cat. We just have to look, we just have to ask ourselves, what way do we want to do? Right. And sometimes it requires experience first before you can go, scan, multiple cats. You may scan one cat and be like, oh, I see what that is. And then when it's time to scan multiple, you bring in all your other people, and now y'all can do the work. Right. So I think we just have to expand what does work really look like for us? What does that really mean for us? Does it mean I work for someone, or does it mean I hire people and I have them go work for someone? What does that look like to us? How do we see ourselves in any industry? It doesn't necessarily be the tech industry. You could be doing something for doctors or a nonprofits or whatever the case may be. Just make sure you're expanding your mindset on what that could look like.
Totally, totally. But I know the viewers are like, man, okay, I know she's talking that good talk, but who is this woman? So can you tell the viewers a little bit who is Tamika Reed, and then we'll
Yep.
segue from that into like, why did you start Women in Linux?
Yep. So I am Tamika Reed. I've been in the industry on the tech side for I guess you could say from 2000, end of 2001 to beginning of 2002. I have been. I started out doing Cisco networking. I wanted to get my CCIE. I had my own home lab, the whole nine. And then I rolled over into Linux because my lab partner showed me Linux, and I was just like, "What is it?" Because he was like, "This command line on the Cisco switch is just like Linux." And I was like, "What is that?" And I was like, I need to learn that then, since you say it's just like it. I didn't have no clue that Linux and that command line were two different things. And when I got this computer from him, I was like, so I'm gonna be able to do my routing stuff. He's like, no, it's an operating system, and you're gonna have to learn. So I was like, well, how did I get it to get on the internet? He's like, that's for you to figure it out. And so that's what I did. I went to the bookstore. I started I bought Linux off the shelf. I bought the actual Linux book, the Linux administration book, and started playing with it, trying to make it look like Windows and going to forums and IRCs and so forth. And from there, I just took off. Got my first part time, well, not part time, internship job. And then eventually, while I was still in college, I had a full time job as a Linux administrator over a high performance computing cluster, working at University of Washington. And so that's how I got my start, and I just stuck with it, right? I just, I asked myself, I'm like, could I do this full time? And I was like, this seemed like fun, all right? This seemed like more fun than sitting here programming every day in Java, right? This seemed like more fun than sitting here programming every day in C++. I was like, I had more fun with my Linux stuff than I did with my Java and my C++ stuff. I was like, oh, this sucks. And I would just go play with my Linux stuff, and then I come back to my my writing my programs for classes. So that's how I got started, and that's who essentially is who I am as on the tech side, and then on the personal side is uh, growth, financial growth, right? What accumulation? What does that look like? What does it look like to leave your family um, 10 million, 20 million, 15 million, 100 million? What does that look like to leave your family that kind of money and set them up for not just their generation, but generations after them? What does that look like? And how do we do that? And what should you be putting in place in order to do that? That's where I'm at right now.
Dope, dope. That's definitely dope. Um,
Thank you.
am I still muted?
No, you're not muted.
Okay, perfect. Uh, let's go ahead to get a little comfortable. I'm leaning up and back hurting and stuff. But I really appreciate that. That's dope. And so even though you kind of like glossed like over kind of like Linux, like can you get like a high level like simple overview about Linux?
Yeah. So, a quick fun fact: Linux was founded in 1991, and so was blockchain, founded in 1991. And you can see how long it's really have taken the industry to really adopt blockchain and the use cases for it. And it's really, if you really want to be truthful about it, nobody was really talking about Linux like they are now, even before Cloud Academy or the Linux Academy came out, and I think they came out in 2012 or maybe 2015. And nobody was really like, "Hey, go to school and get your Linux. Go to school, learn Linux." Everybody's like, "No, you go be a computer engineer and so forth." And um, Linux has taken off because of the ability to be a real time operating system where you can get real updates. Uh, there's again different versions of that. But it's also taken off in the cloud space. Like every cloud server that you're running underneath probably is a Linux server underneath, right? And the hypervisor would be KVM on that. So you use Linux every day, you just don't know it, and people don't realize the um, world in which Linux touches. And I say that from the perspective of your power grids, your cell phones, your smartwatches, even the cars. If you go to some of these conferences, you'll see Mercedes, you'll see BMW, you'll even see Porsche. Their tech stack involves Linux and DevOps. Chick Fil A as well has a Kubernetes cluster sitting in every single one of their registers, but they're really just little Linux boxes with clusters spun up on them. A Linux cluster spun up on them to how long did the fries cook? How fast are these cars moving out? How long does it take for that person to get their food from the time they order to the time they just move to the side? You know, when they move to the side, your food almost coming up like it's just I order, I pay, I eat. Right? It's almost to that with Chick-fil-A, and working on that timing. But again, Linux is everywhere, including boats and satellites. All our, mostly all our satellites. We saw Starlink launch 32,000 satellites around the world. We are everywhere when it comes to Linux. So it is no shortage of Linux Linux reach and capabilities that you can acquire in order to have I don't want to say a sustainable career. I just want to say a long career. How about that?
Okay, that's dope. And while you was talking, I just thought about something. It's like, and I'm probably gonna confuse myself a little bit, but Linux, and then I start thinking about like Unix, whatever.
Hmm.
I can't remember what came first, like like the chicken or the egg conversation.
Hmm.
Is is Linux first and then Unix is kind of built off of Linux, or is it the
No,
other way around?
I think it's the other way around. I think I also did Sun Solaris too. That was one of my starts as well too. I used to administer Sun Solaris. I used to administer Sun Solaris and Novell. Novell's probably before everybody's time, but
I
uh,
remember. I don't know much about Novell, but I remember at my work study job, my boss, which I gotta get him on the show, man. He was like the IT guy, like of everything in the college of business. So he used to like use Novell and all that stuff, and so
right.
yeah, that just brought back a little flashback.
No, it's no problem. I mean, I got my exposure at Novell when I lived in Seattle, and the police department was migrating off of Novell to Linux boxes. So they needed someone to come in and help. And I was like, man, this is a lot of work. I was volunteering too. I was like, this is a lot of work. I ain't doing this no more. Y'all ain't got to see me no more. I'm good. Right? But no, no. Solaris did come first, and Solaris. There's still some work out there with some people who have Solaris. It's not a lot. You don't see a lot of that, but there's still some work out there. Solaris and even AIX, which is IBM's version of Linux. There's still AIX servers out there.
Sorry, getting everything. Okay, cool. So with that being said, because I bought a women in Linux before,
Mm-hmm.
what's the goal of women in Linux is to get more women to either be knowledgeable of Linux or actually like learn it and help them get jobs in Linux or like what you know.
What sparked women
Hmm.
in Linux. So what really sparked women in Linux was I got tired of hearing about how people could get into tech, and it really was a big push to get more women into tech, and then it became how we can get more black people into tech, right? And all I
Hmm.
ever saw was go to this boot camp, go learn some coding, and then you'll get these jobs. And my thing was, well, what about all this, all these data centers, all this infrastructure, all that work underneath the hood, right? The underneath hood, the storage units, the blades, the servers, the fiber cards, all of that work underneath that makes up that cloud or makes up that rack or whatnot. That automation to build that out are jobs that that you can do, and you don't necessarily have to go to college for those or a boot camp. And there wasn't no boot camp for that. It's still not a boot camp to talk about, hey, if I had to work in a data center, what does that look like? There's no boot camp for that.
You're
There's
right.
no path for that. And then there's also no path about even how to even build out a data center, right? You have to have worked in the industry, know a particular vendor very well, from APC to Dell to Pure Storage, and the list goes on that. But when you start thinking about what does it look like to work in a data center, um, because again, people kind of shy away from working on a data center, but those that work in data centers that work with like the New York Stock Exchange, these Charles Schwab's and so forth and so on, they're getting paid because they need stuff rapidly, quickly, doing analysis on something, buy that trade, getting that fast bandwidth, getting that for that transaction to be executed quickly. Those people are getting paid, and when I say they're getting paid, they're getting a nice piece of change. And we don't talk about it, and it's never presented. So what I did was I tried to show my homegirl the Linux administration and how to get on the command line. She fell asleep because I whipped out Vim for her. I was like, "We're not doing no GUI over here. If you're gonna come from me, you gonna get on here on this command line and you're gonna love it. Like you know what a GUI looks like. It's foreign to you." And I started out with that, and she fell asleep on me. And she was like, "Why don't why don't we create a nonprofit out of this?" And I created a nonprofit. And the initial goal was to get more women into infrastructure. And then we moved over to getting, basically, we had men start joining. And like I told the women in my group, you're going to probably work with men. So you might as well go ahead and get used to this now. And so that's what ended up happening. And here we are. So we
Dope.
work with men and women.
Nice, nice. So like for like when you're teaching things, is it strictly through YouTube or do they got a website where you got stuff that's like
Yeah,
pre-recorded that they go and do courses with or something like, how
no,
that's structured?
we got a meetup that we've been doing every Wednesday. We was doing 3 or 4 a week, but I do a meetup every Wednesday from, it used to be 7 to 9, but now we do from 8 to 10, where we walk through what is it like to pass the RHCSA. We open up the command line. You're on the terminal. You're learning, but I also show like, hey, if you don't have VMware on your box or you can't get it to work, how do you can use like AWS or Google Cloud to spin up and start playing with Red Hat version of Red Hat if you needed to. But you can also download the ISO and sign up for um, a Red Hat developers account, and then get the ISO, and you get up to 16 VMs that you can create with that ISO, right? So I talk about
Nice.
that as well too. But I want people to get the idea of like, what is it like to do, these run these commands, scale this up, how to use Terraform, right? How to
Man.
use Ansible. Like I do the whole DevSecOps thing, but strictly fundamentals of Linux, cloud security, automation tool or configuration management tool or both. And what does that look like putting that all together with GitLab or GitHub, and how to do pipelines and stuff. So they build off of each other. You can substitute AWS or cloud for the Linux stuff and then learn the Linux stuff later. But it depends on your trajectory of how you see yourself in the industry. Some people just want to be cloud engineers and that's all they want to do. They're gonna never touch VMware. Some people like, I want to touch VMware of the cloud. I want to touch everything. So it depends on how you see yourself and what that looks like. I think being a Swiss Army knife for me has worked. Where you can go into any environment, hybrid, all cloud, on prem, never see the daylight of the internet, and build from there. I'm comfortable in everything.
Yeah, that's dope. It's crazy. I just had a consultation with a young lady yesterday, and she's currently at ISO,
Hmm.
and she's wanting to actually go the cloud route. So I did kind of connect her with somebody I know that did the same thing. They used to be at ISO, but
Hmm.
I was telling her, I was like, see, what you do is we went through, because I think she was like trying to go cloud architect and some cloud engineer, but I honestly, me, this me, I was like, honestly, anything that's architect is just like, for me, I feel like it's at least 3 to 5 years level, maybe
Hmm.
experience
Hmm.
wise, just because you'd have to be, introduced to so many different environments to kind of know what you're doing. On top of,
Hmm.
a lot of these companies don't even know what they want out of like cloud architects anyway. They
Mm-hmm.
just slapping stuff on there. I looked at some of the descriptions, but anyways, we went to like some of the entry level DevSecOps stuff, and what you
Mm-hmm.
everything you just said, number one, probably every job description we saw Terraform, we saw Kubernetes, we saw Ansible, we saw Chef, uh, Puppet. We saw like I saw
Yes.
them. I said these are the things that you got to study. If you, I mean, hey, you take a month, however long you want to take, and you work on these things individually or whatever a day, to where you could talk about them confidently enough.
Yep.
Do some little projects. Then you can start adding it to your, your utility belt of saying, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
know Ansible, I know Terraform, but I was
Mm-hmm.
just I think that's one of the things. Like I was like, that's kind of like the cheat code. It's not even cheat code. It's kind of like there for you playing this day to figure out what you got to work on. Now the hard part is everybody learns differently, so everybody can't just go pick up and do it. They need instruction for somebody to
Right.
show them how to do it, or you know,
Right.
watching the video sometime. It's just it's just different. So I think that's the part, and also like, hey, like for me, I think the reason why Python never stuck with me is because I never instead of like they had the little books or whatever, so you can go through the course,
Mm-hmm.
but the best way is probably just to find some that you can use for Python and kind of learn it backwards
Mm-hmm.
to where you like going to make something practical. Like I remember, like you can go on there and find how to make like a little vulnerability scanner or whatever,
Right.
and then some that you'll actually use, opposed to hello world, 4 plus 4 is 8. It's stuff
Yeah.
that don't really. I mean, like you get the syntax, but it don't mean much because after that, it's just like when I try to learn Spanish in high school, I
Right.
only remember a couple of words.
And I think the baseline for any programming language is this: how to write a file, how to read a file, how to scan for data, how to organize data. And when I say that, meaning like I got a raw log messages file. It's got 10,000 lines in it. I don't need all 10,000. How would you filter that out in based upon a time and date stamp in
Hmm.
Python? And also another filter would be I just want every log, every failed login or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Like so, just in general, just something like that. Even though you don't get the login and Varlog messages, you're getting it secure, but you get the
Hmm.
example, the illustration here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then um, taking that output and putting it into some format where it's human readable, right? I think those are basics that you end up doing. Could you use Bash? Sure. Can you use Python? Could you use Rust? So many different languages you could use, but do you understand the different data structures that you need to use in order to accomplish those things? And that's where I think a lot of problems happen because most of the jobs outside of DevSecOps that require programming are always talking about data structures and algorithms. When you start talking about a software engineer, and so you'll run into these weird things like I think titles like principal DevSecOps software engineer is like, what in the world is that?
Right. That's three different roles. And at the same time, them three different roles sometimes don't want to pay you as it's three different roles.
Exactly. So you gotta ask for your money, right? You gotta
Mm.
know what's out there, right? We're at this stage now. I mean, when I say at this stage, we're at this juncture in life now where we should be able to be comfortably talking about money. And I said this before. I think we often are not comfortable with talking about you know 300,000. Like, shh, don't tell nobody that. Like, don't say that, right?
Yeah.
Don't say that out loud. Like, it's totally funny because those are conversations that we probably should be having, right?
Yeah,
There
definitely.
used to be, it still is out there. It was an anonymous worksheet for salary sheet for people who work in security, and I have to dig it up. I'll send it to you. But people who work in security, there were some people who had only on this sheet had 6 months of experience and was making $1 million. Then you got some people who got 10 years of experience and they making $150,000. and it varies from range to range. But I'm sure people who saw, these people that are, pulling down 1 million and only got 6 months to a year or two, they're probably like, wait a minute, what's going on here? What company is that? It's all anonymous, so you can't really trace it back, but at least you get to see what the possibilities are, what the
Mm-hmm.
ranges are, and then you can kind of maneuver and float around in that area.
Yeah, and you brought up some this important segment right here because I was gonna let me clip this real quick. I was gonna ask you like, so as far as a person, really this really that background in Linux, I feel like you can write your own ticket. So from the people you've helped, has it been anybody you've helped? And when I say recently, it could be like last couple of months or last year,
Mm-hmm.
who's gotten a job out of what they learned with you, and kind of like what was that salary they got,
Yeah,
or range or whatever.
yeah. So I've had some people that they'll come in to the group, they'll learn like Linux baseline, and then they go off and add on more. So they've gotten full-time jobs over the years. I've had people to come in and like, hey, just tell me, give me my fundamentals of what I need and where I can get this from, and I'm on my bit on my own. So one of the young ladies, she started out she started out at Yale with an apprenticeship. She learned the fundamentals, like I told her. She started out with Linux and DevSecOps, and she went from making 70,000 to over 300,000 in the last 3 to 3.5 years. I've There's a few people that I've coached that didn't have any experience at all in technology, and now he's like this a lead guy. Was he on your show? No, he was on Jawan's show. But he's pulling in over 200,000 now, but he started out with no experience, and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't have no tech experience, but because they liked his ambition and because they liked his ability to try to understand, and he was willing to receive training. So he's
That's a big
changed.
one right there.
Yeah,
Emphasis on willing to receive.
yep. And he changed his whole life, and so, and he said it in a couple of shows as well too. And I talked to him often. So we do have winners, successes out of women in Linux, that people have gone on. People have been introduced to people and they got jobs. People have gone on and done interviews, and maybe they didn't work out this time, but that person left another company and they
Mm-hmm.
found them to be a good fit at this particular company, so they're over there. So it's just it is twofold. So I say it ranges anywhere from 70,000 on the low end to 300,000 and more, and it also ranges from people who have no experience to gaining experience and then going out in the field and working. So I've seen a lot of different people come across the screen, even in the medical field as well too.
Yeah, man. Because growing up, most of the time and I don't know, as a society, they're probably gonna get out of this, but they put a big emphasis on doctor and lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find out is, first of all lawyers not making money.
Nope.
And so they spent time sacrificing and stuff like that in the bar, you know what I'm saying? But they not really making money.
Exactly.
And then you go to somebody, now it's become like more of a fad where you're in tech or you got a tech job, something like that. It's kind of a little bit more like, let me see, what my thing.
Yeah, I got time, cuz.
They put a little bit more respect on your name now because oh you hear anything with engineering security, it's like, oh, okay, he doing something, like, because they done figured out, hey, just like
Yeah.
your job is useful and needed, I'm needed.
Right.
Most of our stuff now ain't no, oh, you're gonna fill something out and put it in the mailbox and go. Nah, that's mostly digital. So
Right.
if I'm not here and that stuff go down, no, nothing can get done.
Exactly. But it's also, when we get into that, that's a whole nother area with SRE and observability. Like if I leave, the company should still function, the team should still function. And so that gets into chaos monkey and throwing a wrench into it and being like, oh, we need to put some some protections in place here in order to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, definitely. It's a crazy world, but the back on the money talk real quick. It's like it does help. Like I think I've made a video about like I read this article or something about like why black people would actually more likely to lowball themselves than anybody else because they
Hmm.
just don't know their true market value, and that
Hmm.
comes from just not that comes from not researching and not having access to people that make certain money or whatever.
Right.
Like me and a friend of mine were out last night, and I was telling him kind of like what I was getting total comp wise, and he was like, "Man, what?" And I was like, honestly, I had jobs I could have kept on interviewing for that would have actually even paid me more. I
Hmm.
just was ready to leave my old situation. I couldn't wake
Trying
up
to
no more and drive
adapt.
downtown. I was like,
Right.
but that's the thing though. Once you start talking, I was telling him, I was like, yeah, Matt. I said, I know people getting base 200. Like, I was telling them
Hmm.
about Liberty Mutual had like a role,
Hmm.
the manager role that the director actually wanted me for, but they just took
Hmm.
so long to reach out to me.
Oh
That
man.
that on the low end, the minimum was 150, and then the max was 210, and that was without bonuses and everything else that came with that role. So it's
I'm gonna
out here.
pull up a roll right now that came over June 15th, right? And the role is for they're looking for five cloud engineers, and the role is paying. The ranges are from 200 to 260 plus.
Sheesh. Is that remote? Is that
That's let me see. That's a hybrid. It's up in Crystal City, up in the DMV area, and they
okay?
want you to have a clearance, but it's even still under that clearance guideline. 200 to 260 plus is still.
Right, and you can't beat it. The role I was just describing was 100% remote because everybody look. I'm not mad at nobody. If you can manage all your remote roles, by all means, do
Right.
it. Um,
Talking about the overemployed.
right. It's a mess. Like you have people like I think anything like over three, like maybe too much, especially like for me, I
I
did two,
can agree with that.
and I wasn't really doing 40 hours because I was just really kind of supervising.
Hmm.
I was a lead like SOC threat analyst at the time, so
Okay.
I honestly would only have to do work if one of my guys can handle something. And my
Right.
meetings was different because one was kind of based on like East Coast time, so it started before the one that based more on Pacific time, so it really was perfect.
Right.
But now anything over there, I seen some. I think she was on Twitter or something. She had probably about five or I don't know how many laptops she had. I was like, man, that's too much, bro.
Yeah,
It
and I talked
is
about that last week on my show about the overemployed, where some people are pulling in 600,000 a year. Uh, but then there's some people who pulling in 600,000 a year from one job.
one job exactly. And the thing is about all them different jobs. It's like you gotta be careful because some companies sometimes want to see like your financial information. Like I know
Hmm.
that's the reason why I want to leave Goldman Sachs as well because I used to work there. They were just too intrusive. Um,
Oh, okay.
like I would have to put in a
Mm.
request just to get a trade some infidelity that I want to get. So if they don't
I get
approve
that.
it, then I'm like I didn't miss out on what I was trying to get. It's just my line of work didn't even involve anything with investments. I don't know why they put them stipulations on me. Like at least now at
And
JP Morgan, they say my role don't require me to devolve, any of the stuff I got on financially, whatever. So I was like, cool, because my
what does that look like when you do have to do? Because I think that's another part of tech that people don't talk about is um, these guidelines that you have to fall into working in tech from when when you're actually getting your offer letter and say you run your YouTube channel, right? That's your
hmm
intellectual property. That
right.
whatever you create on this channel, that's something you create. Even if you wrote a script that can help people automatically log into all their Slacks without doing whatever, right?
hmm
Just an example. That's your intellectual property. But when you're signing this paperwork, you need to include what you think you may be doing as well too, as much as what you're already doing. So don't nobody lay claim to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know. Like for me, I just didn't when I was doing my stuff for like onboarding for Goldman Sachs. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really tell them certain things because I didn't want them
Hmm.
asking me about it. So I
Right.
was like, whenever they found out, that's when
Hmm.
they would find out, and then they would give me a decision. Oh, like because I knew people there that was like someone that was doing real estate and other things like that, and they was telling people mind you, these are people that don't do anything with the investment part or nothing. So they're all
Hmm.
in like tech space, and they were telling them, hey, you can't do that right now because of yada yada yada. I'm like, you never gonna. I don't know care what company it is. You're not gonna tell me what I can do because you can go out and acquire these different businesses and make more money. But
But
when it
I
comes to me, I gotta stop doing. No, that's
can't.
stupid. I'm like, I'm
You
not
ain't
doing that.
stopping. You didn't stop.
Right? I was never gonna stop.
I'm just
I
saying,
never told them about my coaching or
the
nothing.
company themselves,
Oh
they
yeah,
didn't.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, that's the thing. I think that be kind of happening. I was like, I don't care what the name say on the building. Like, who cares? I
Mhm.
think that's a so that's and then and this is probably like a good segment right here. We can talk about like a lot of these companies have to realize that we don't care no more about if you Fang or whoever. We don't care. We don't care
Mm,
about that name. What that means to us. It's somebody
right.
else. What y'all don't want to do for me, another company will. Simple.
Oh, and I can find another way to do it too.
Right. Because I could, okay, bet. So I just stop and then, hey, I just hit up who I need to hit. Y'all really need me? I'll just do this company or company or whatever. We'll do it like that. But not
Mhm.
under the guise of being your employee just because you want to put stipulations on me and
Right.
control me. Like, a lot of these times they're still kind of, they want a little bit of stuff to go back to the old days or because I said so, or look who you working for. So you got to come into the office. Man, ain't nobody, okay.
I need
Man,
to
I'm
see
on,
your face. I need
if
to see
y'all,
your face
right. If y'all listening right now, make sure you're on Blind and Fishbowl. I look at that stuff all the time. Like how many people are quitting.
all
Like
the
my old company, so many people been quitting Goldman Sachs because of that mandatory, 3 days at the office, and they really overworked them finance people. I was like, man, I don't believe in being overworked.
time.
Uh,
Look, these companies and opportunities are, as me and my homegirl been saying, are in abundance. So you got to be willing to know what your skill sets are so you can get there, so you can take it to the next level and make sure that you are providing for what you want to provide for. And when I say that, I mean that could be family, that could be your own aspirations, that
mm-hmm.
could be that could be some a family you adopted, charity, whatever the case may be. But making sure that you're getting what you deserve so you can thrive. Right? We got this I want to survive man mindset, and that doesn't work with in the long term. It doesn't scale well,
Right.
as we like to say. It don't scale well. So what does that look like for you when we start talking about retirement? What does that look like? And people have to ask themselves that question. That's why I like Linux, because it gives me that long lifetime span to work. um I don't see it going anywhere. I see maybe the automation coming of certain things, but
Mm-hmm.
still underneath it still need to be uh, fixed or tampered with on some on as a Linux box or whatever the case may be. So I think
Right.
the lifespan we have for your skill sets here with Linux are a lifetime. That's just my thought right now. You can add cloud to that and networking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. Which is weird. It's like my new role is not networking, but it is networking. It's like I deal with like and it's funny because up until this point, I knew companies did it. And in my other companies, I would
Hmm.
assume they would let like the networking team do it, but
Hmm.
my team is connectivity assurance, and what they
Okay.
do is governance of the firewall rules. So all the different
Okay.
application owners and lines of business that are
Hmm.
submitting firewall rules because they want to connect to this port and do this and that with their
Hmm.
apps and stuff. you know, you review those all the time. They got systems to review them and
Right.
making sure none of the IPs do different, like I guess like different tier jumps that they do, and to
Hmm.
not expose to be to any threats. And so
Right.
they
And
brought me
whatever
in
the
to
ports are. Right.
right. Yeah, and then they just brought me in to probably help fine tune the processes. And since I do have like I have some basic cloud certifications, but they know I do have knowledge of the
Good.
cloud. No, no, no. But I'm just saying that's the whole reason why I got them. I didn't want to go past anything because now I'm thinking about um, probably probably looking into. I don't necessarily have to get solution architect, but more
Hmm.
so I'm gonna do some labs with it and just learn different things and because we're finna, make that jump from being like on prem to more cloud stuff, especially with like the network stuff. I was looking at a lot of the things that AWS could do for like
Okay,
automation
so it's
purposes and stuff like
HBS.
that. Well,
Okay.
no, it's gonna be AWS, it's gonna be Azure, it's gonna be GCP. And he told
Okay.
me it's gonna be like all of them. So I mean, if I
Okay.
know the first one
Multi-cloud.
first, I know it's all of them.
Nothing
So
wrong with multi-cloud.
yeah, I mean they so big. Like, I don't even know how many. I don't even know how many like things like JPMC has, but I'm sure I'll find out. Like,
They got
it's pretty cool. But also with this role, what's been great for me is like this is probably the no, probably be the second time, but this person seemed different. This person, it's like my one of my direct peoples look like
hmm
me, and then the
hmm
guy that's over everything looked like me. So this has been like a first, and he seems to be one of us. So not one of the ones that's just skin folk.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that just look like you, and you're not even sure if you can,
Right.
say
That
hi
Goldman
about
Sachs.
you.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs buddy was not kinfolk, but he was skinfolk. And I was like,
Okay,
okay, whatever. But that and I just
and
met
that's
some other
rare.
people. Right, very rare. And I met some other people in the organization, that's that got some higher titles that look us cause so I'm finding out they are pretty decent at least and diversity, which is cool.
Gotcha.
Because that really does help you stay afloat because a lot of the decisions that sometimes companies make don't make sense.
Right.
Like
It
and
don't make sense to them either.
right. They just be up there doing stuff.
It don't make sense to them either. But no,
But
when you in that, and but that's you brought up a good point. In tech, it's very rare to be working on a team with all of us or someone that look like us or something like that. And so, what I have learned to do is I fill my void with helping others
right.
overcome that. So at least I get to see that, at least that part. And also I want people to be able to maneuver. So when we don't have that ability, that to maneuver or have the option to you see someone, right? And a lot of people's like, oh, that's an excuse or whatnot. But for some people that's important. For some people it don't matter.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, at first, when I went to grad school, is one of the reasons I'm gonna be a manager. I'm gonna hire people that look like me and yada yada yada. As I got more experience, I realized it ain't gonna necessarily go like that. So that's what made me start just channel my coaching business, all that stuff. Is like I'm able to directly, I don't
Yeah.
just help black people. I help everybody, but at least like most of my clientele, is black. And I've been helping them, and it's been like at a good rate. Like
Okay.
earlier when we was talking about the money stuff in the companies, remind me of like one of my recent clients of
Mhm.
he's in Alabama, and he came to me, and all I did was a resume review, and then revamped his resume for him, and he started getting like a lot of hits, but
Mhm.
at the same time, his company started like revoking some of his access and trying to get him to train interns. There's a whole bunch of stupid stuff. And he was doing wearing so many hats, and they were just taking contracts away and stuff from him, which was like pretty much taking away some of his income
Money.
for his family. And he had they expecting like a new child or whatever. And but he ended up landing a new role like as a sysadmin. Like within I think we did this all within maybe 2 weeks, 2 3 weeks tops maybe.
Mhm.
And they was trying to act astonished when he put his 2 weeks in. Like some people didn't want to talk to him. His boss trying to act like lip service. Oh,
You
he could
want
have
to
just
talk
told me.
to him? You
Talking
want to
about,
talk?
oh man, we didn't know. Money was an issue. Should have told me. He's like, meanwhile, me and him had so many meetings about giving me a raise, and I never got it. I was like, man, you don't owe the people nothing because I was like, your skill set, you
Hey,
still, underpaid.
hey, I am all for people getting their money before they start working. That wish meat sandwich that people try to sell, like, after you've been here for 6 months, we can do an evaluation. No, don't do evaluate me now.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and then that remind when he told me that remind me of like when I left Goldman Sachs. One of the people was trying to act like they talked to me after I put my 2 weeks in. I was like, no, nobody talked to me besides one person, one of the manager, the people I reported to, when he just told me how to do this. I said nobody came and talked to me. I didn't get a hey, what can we do to make you stay, which I wasn't going to accept it anyway. But I was like, I ain't getting none of that. So I already knew that I made the right decision.
But no, no, with your experience, because it's a little different from me. What are you starting to see? Are you starting to see more black managers, or are you starting to see more
Yes,
black people?
I'll say I ain't gonna say abundance, but I think I'm seeing more. Like even on my floor, I've seen a couple. I think maybe some of them might have been interns, and I've seen some. Like I ran
Hmm.
into somebody the other day, which was weird. Like I'm from Louisiana,
Hmm.
and I ran into somebody who does I think product management or something on for our
Mm-mm-mm.
company for something, but they
Hmm.
happen to be from Louisiana, and we both went to the same school undergrad, and I used to
Okay.
do like work study with her sister, but it was just funny that the world's so small that I would run into somebody I
The
actually like.
tech world is so small.
And that's why I tell people, hey, if you go to a job, like do your job well and to the best of your ability. Don't act like if you don't know everything, get some help, and if you got a good attitude, people will try to help you out because it is small. And
Hmm.
I've been building my network over these last 2 years for that very reason. Because like, hey, if this don't pan out, I've made friends with so many people. They like,
Right. You can
oh
go
well, I
where
know him. Bring him over.
you can go where you want to go. You can pick and choose the industry you want to work in, and that's why I encourage people to get more skills so you can pick and choose where you want to go, and not somebody dictate to you where you should be going.
Hmm. But
You know,
yeah,
especially if you got relevant skills.
definitely. But I say probably my not Goldman Sachs, but the company before that when I was with Optiv, because they actually headquartered in Denver. I think they headquartered in
Okay.
Denver. Nice building
Yeah.
down there. On that specific contract that was on, my director was black, so that's actually like my first time having like a black director. So that was cool. I had knew then, hey, if I stay here, at least I could at least be director.
Hmm.
That's another
Hmm.
thing I do. Wherever I go look at the org chart and see at the highest of highs who look like us.
What it
Because that
looks
was,
like. Because some of these, I can never forget this time. I was in a meeting with the CEO of CACI, and they had bought our company, and on the thing was like, this is the org chart. And so they was like, anybody got a question? I was like, yeah. I was like, how do I get on the org chart? Because
hmm,
I was like, I don't see nobody up there that look like me. So what does that look like? And they were like, "Oh, anybody, we got programs that you can get in and fast track you to the top of the org." And I was like, "No, you're not. You're not
that's just
fast
lip
track.
service. I don't
It's
even
lip
need I don't even need a program. Like just put me up there.
right."
Like because a lot of time, and that's also that disconnect too. Like you're so high up, you don't really know what's going on the
Oh,
bottom of how really making everything work, and that's why sometimes companies sink because they just don't know the people at the top is out of touch. And you know this because you've been in the industry a while. All them people do is they just rotate their same friends from company to company. That's all they do.
or
Meet
they
CIO so and so. He did 10 years at
or they rotate
Deloitte.
themselves from company to company, and they pull people from other companies to
Yeah,
cover them to go to X, Y, and Z all the time, all the
and
time.
these people be I'm like, man, what they supposed to do about innovation? These dudes be I ain't mad at it. I'm just like, come on now, you can find somebody
Uh,
else.
Take
Because
it,
that's the
take.
thing. Because not to interrupt you, but I just thought about something like people watch all these sports shows and they be complaining about we ain't got no head coaches and we ain't got enough black owners. I get all that. I was like, but do y'all take a step out that bubble and think about the actual real world or how less that even is
Some
from
people
company to
do.
company?
Some people do and some people don't. For the most part, I think um, I think working in tech can be very selfish sometimes.
Hmm.
And when I say that, it's a good and bad selfish. It's good to be selfish because you're focused on what you need to get done, but at the same time, it could be bad because you're neglecting, in a way, everybody else. So I always look at I have always looked at tech as like a CYA type of situation, and you can still be a part of the group to make sure that whatever it is that y'all need to accomplish, y'all accomplish. But I think tech in general is can be a selfish career.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look other than me. I mean, right now, I'm in here doing this, and the girls are out there, or I'm editing, or I'm, if I'm finna buckle down, say, hey, I'm finna learn this cert. So when I come home, I'm have to, study in a little time. It is hard because I have to tell her, remind her a lot. So I don't really have the career where I could be like a factory man, where I
Mm,
come home and take my stuff off and just sit down and be with the kids to watch TV. I said that really it probably never be my life because stuff changes too much. And if I don't try to, stay relevant and adapt, then I'll be,
the
welcome to
setup,
Chick-fil-A. Can I take your order?
the setup, the setup, or Target, and you make 46,000 a year.
Hey, no, hey, but you know what though? I wouldn't. You know what? So I used to work at Target, and they actually play their man. I would be able to be a manager. Matter of fact, they probably would let me run a store. They
Mm.
make pretty good. It's busy, but I mean, they do take care of their managers, their salary employees, better than
Do you
Walmart.
now working there? Do y'all get like? You may or may not know this, like life insurance benefits as a manager, or like HSA, like what?
I would assume they would. See, I was never there. I was only in between school, so I wasn't like there long enough to actually like get benefits and stuff like that. But I believe they would because like I know like some grown people that actually work for them, and they were doing good. Like I think they was paying. Yeah, I think some of them like even they was getting the six figures rather pretty easy back then. This was like 2014, 2013. They raised their prices ever so slightly. So, you Target, when you go to Target, you're getting that experience.
Yeah.
That's what you think you in a department store the way they mapped it out with the aesthetics. You can't, it's, I don't know, they probably got some in the air, but it's hard to go in Target and just leave with one thing. You better off just doing a store pickup. Cause if not,
Right.
you didn't got you some new sheets for the bed and a whole bunch of stuff. You didn't look around, you didn't spend $500, but you only meant to spend 50.
But y'all got a 10% off discount. I looked it up. Y'all get 10% off discount or
But
day.
see, they only let you use it if you get a red card or you use cash. That's what the policy used to be. I don't know if you can use it with like your credit card and stuff now, but back then it was only with a red card or cash.
What? It's
But
crazy.
now the secret is what you do is you try to go to Target enough and you see the stuff they put on the end caps that's gonna
Mm.
be discontinued and you
Yeah,
go find all the clearance stuff. That's the
what I
steal.
did at Walmart, and that's what I did at Marshalls.
We had people that did like all the time. They would come in there, and I would like have like aunts and cousins. They would come in there
Mm.
all the time saying, y'all put the stuff on clearance. Yeah, I was like, it's over there. Or domestics, it's on whatever that back end cap is, and have at it.
And rack up.
Right. I attribute a lot of my soft skills from working at Target over like three and a
I
half
think retail
years.
in general. Retail in
Yeah.
general.
Well, I don't know, but I'm saying you go to Walmart, don't nobody ask you, can they help you?
I did. I worked at Walmart. I used to do that.
Really? What you do at Walmart?
Worked in housewares.
Okay. My mom worked this she started working there when I was 12. So she worked there like a year before I was born. But she used to work the service desk.
Mm.
And she was like she worked at one of the first super centers in our city in Shreveport. So yeah. So I used to be real familiar with Walmart. I used to be up there after
Yeah.
school every day, and my favorite places were the book section. I would go there and read some books, or
Mhm.
I would go at the time. I wish they still had this, but back in the day, they used to have like the demos of the video games, so you can go play the video games, in the store,
In the
in
back.
electronics. But if I was in
Okay.
trouble, she wouldn't let me go,
Yeah,
which
you
was quite
you could
often.
walk like yeah, Walmart. You walk into the electronics section, you grab the remote,
Hmm.
about a little cage, and they have a little TV right there. Yeah,
Hmm.
they don't do that no more.
Nah, they don't have that anywhere anymore. I don't know why. I guess because now like they had the demos now, like your game is all connected to the internet. So all that stuff that you're looking for, you can just find it on your game now. So but it just
Oh.
take away from the experience. Like even though it wouldn't do well, I would love to have a Hollywood video, a blockbuster, just for the underrated value of that.
Blockbuster.
When you used to go in like with your family or something, you went to go like pick out a movie and got some popcorn and stuff. It just was a thing to do. Come on, kids, let's go to Hollywood Video or let's go to Blockbuster. It was just something to do.
That's old school
Now,
good video.
right? That was my. I liked Hollywood Video over Blockbuster.
I get it.
I mean, I don't know. It's cool. I think we just Hollywood Video just had a little bit like at the time you could also rent the video games
I
at the
mean,
same time.
Redbox is still around.
Yeah, but it's just not the same as going into a store that just got that stuff though.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying, Redbox is still around. So you know.
And I wonder how long that's gonna last because I mean that like they had a good run for a while. Like Redbox was killing it at one point, but now with all these streaming services and everything, it's hard to survive. You just gotta stay relevant. That would be a
Or
good title for this episode. But
staying
I
relevant.
want to touch on like two things.
Okay.
Uh, I want to ask you really quick about
Mm-hmm.
when you went down that email thread and say, "Hey, we getting there for a steal at 300 an hour."
323.
See, I want to talk about that. Like after you read that, were you able to up it?
Yep. Yeah, I went back. I was like, we have, and now that I we had that had them up it, still like I feel need more because it's a lot of work.
And is that as a employee or is that as like you
So
work like you got your own company and they hiring your company or what is that like?
so for me, it's W-2. However, it would be them going back and charging LM uh, more, right? So I get a chance to get more in terms of my W two, uh, and more in my sign on, and you know, I like to negotiate bonuses.
Yeah.
Uh, hey, don't just give me sign on like my performance is this. Hey, look what I was able
Hmm.
to accomplish. That kind of stuff. So that kind of feedback, he's getting good feedback and so forth. So we're able to have a healthy relationship around that. But I did go back and ask for more because I was just like, if I'm a steal, then what is it? What you actually getting? What's the actual thing, right? What's the actual pay? Oh man, let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see if I can give you the exact wording there. So she is a steal. That's exactly when he said anything. Here you go, right here. Pop right up for me. Um, yep. It started off with just came across this resume, and to be honest, I haven't seen this type of talent available anywhere in the country. Cleared. Uh, I know it's too late. It may be too late for a DevOps engineer, but I thought she'd be a good person for the project. She's obviously slightly higher labor grade than you were considering, but at this pay, she is a steal. I'm screening her later today, and I submitted her to the program in case they need this type of expertise. So if it one here, it's going to be distributed to the other
Do you
people.
know if they meant to do that or was that by accident?
I think he meant to do that.
Okay, that's good.
He
That means
meant,
he was looking out then.
I think he meant to do that. And so, uh, and I went through and told him like, I had another offer at the time. So,
What y'all gonna do? Right, and that's the
we,
thing. I be telling my clients. I mean, hey, when they hit you up, like, are you expecting? Yeah, I got a couple of them. I'm expecting. I could be expecting nothing, but
right.
you finna think that everybody want me. Hey,
Yeah,
it's
you finna come up off this cash.
pretty much. Uh, that's dope though, because I mean, you start running numbers. Like, hold on, what? So I mean, it's just I just always like to bring just realistic things to like if you work smart. I don't really want to say hard, but you work smart,
Mhm.
you can get there. And like you said, that's and we all know you with the money talk. That's one source of income. You probably got 1,000, but when we were talking about earlier about the overemployment stuff about people having a job like that, it's just doing one, and then it just free you up to do other things to where you're passively
Mhm.
making some money to where you don't have to actively like do like 5 7 things at one time
But
and
that's what I was talking about too, right? On there is like, okay, suppose you did go down the route and you're trading time for money, right?
hmm
What is that? How do you make that money grow,
hmm
right? How do you make investments? Not just stocks, but when I say buying assets, right?
hmm
And this actually gets into this a great segue into what I just talked about earlier. Um, and I was talking about life insurance, right? And
right,
it was saying the article said in the quote is Black Americans are more likely to carry life insurance than the average American. It says, but the coverage does little more than provide other than funeral costs. And the thing about it is, there's like if we want to close that racial gap,
right,
when someone passes away, they're removing income from the household,
and the
right?
family
It's
potentially too.
from the family. And so, how do we ensure that that doesn't, because that income goes missing, and we took care of the funeral, that the family still can thrive, not survive? Because people always going to say, well, the family would make it. And to me, make it means I'm just barely getting by. I'm not thriving. I'm not able to do other investments. I'm not able to go on that vacation. We're just able to make sure we got some food in the house and the bills is paid for. And I can't send you off to college with a lot of money, but I can get you 500, right? I give you something,
hmm
right? We got to get out of that survival mindset and go to the thriving mindset. And the other one was in here. It was saying that, um, but 40% of Black Americans remain uninsured, with their benefits not in place to replace income or provide wealth transfer across generations. And so, what does that look like? You get your life insurance at work. Okay, cool. But what about outside of the job? What kind of insurance? What kind of
hmm
assets do you have? What are we doing? So it behooves us to make as much as we can to buy assets or to invest in assets, however you want to slice that, right? So that you can start creating wealth, right? There's nothing wrong with you as a person, as a man, to be like, okay, look, I got nieces and nephews, I got children, I have a wife, and I got nieces and nephews, whatever that relationship may look like. Like I got a sister or what have you. Why if you're on good terms, right? Why wouldn't you want to set your family up? Like I
hmm
don't like, to me, if I pass away and I got $100 million, right? And people always say, well, you're single, and why would you want to? What would you do with $100 million? people leave money to cats and dogs
Right.
and colleges. Like whatever I want to do with it is what is the thing. But the goal is for me would be to set up like nieces and nephews and cousins and uh, maybe I set up my friends' kids or my friend or what have you. Like I look at Dave Ramsey and on those shows and some of the shows like people pass away and they work for somebody for so long. Like one lady, she got left 1.25 million because she had worked for this man. He was really wealthy. She had been working for him for the last 10 years. And he was like, let me leave her something. He left her 1.25 million. Another one, mom and dad passed away. The guy, his mom and dad were wealthy, but they left him $50 million in cash, not in an estate, nothing. It's just $50 million. So you ask yourself, man, what did they do to leave these people, that kind of money, right? And how what does that look like? And so I say to people is what does it look like for you to have 100 million? If I gave you $100 million right now, could
Hmm.
you make a billion? Like how would you do? How would you set yourself up for and set other people up with that? Right? Like
Hmm.
that abundance and wealth mindset, I think is very important. And people get upset because they start people start dropping facts. So let me go ahead and say this now, so people in your chat.
Oh yeah, you
Uh,
talking about the little troll dude that
yeah,
nobody even know who he is.
yeah. So look, I'm well aware that most people in the United States, in particular Black people, are making anywhere from 42 to $47,000. I'm well aware of that. What I'm also well aware of is there's more out there to make. So why stay there, right? I'm well aware that I think right now to be in the top 1% on the low end is $451,000. And then people ask you, why do you want to even be? Why do you want to have that kind of money coming in or have that kind of net worth?
I
Because of
don't
the
understand questions like that.
because people don't understand the options that it gives you, right? When you start understanding the option that, hey, I could go and be a part of this hedge fund, or I can invest in this group over here that's buying 144 apartments, or I could be a part of this group over here. They need an investor and they need $100,000. Hey, I got the 100. Let me see
Hmm.
the numbers, right? The ability to go into other spaces and other lanes is so much more important, and I don't think people realize that. And because you probably have never seen it before, right? I
Yeah,
can
that's
go
hard to fathom.
yeah, it's hard to fathom, like investing in a trucking company or investing or be a silent investor into some, or you set up yourself a foundation where you give out scholarships to people every year, and no one needs to even know who you are,
Hmm.
and you're still helping others out. You're still helping your taxes out. Yeah, like that conversation needs to be had. But I just, for me, I look at it as like, how can I help? And I think this is a philosophy I've adopted. How can I help make others richer? Because when I make them richer, now I got rich friends that I can
Yeah,
go
and
talk
then
to about my investments.
definitely, and then that's one of those things where like you get different friends throughout the years, and hopefully, you find out, oh yeah, all your friends you can't go with you, like you say. You could, what they like to say, preaching to the cows come home, or what they say.
Hmm.
You can yell it from the mountaintop. I'm saying,
Hmm.
hey guys, I see y'all doing this. Come get with me so I can get y'all a high paying career. I mean, it
Right.
ain't gonna be for everybody, which is
Right.
fine. Also the type of person like I don't want to hear no complaints about money, no nothing if you're not willing to try to put the work in to get the money. I don't want to hear that. I'm like,
Yep.
you
You
have
got to
the
be
opportunity.
willing. You got to be willing to put the work in, and you also have to be willing to say to yourself, and this is again, I was on a Discord on Thursday, and I talked about this. What skill sets do you have right now that's going to last you a lifetime? I just talked about
Hmm.
it on my show. What skill sets do you have or can acquire that's going to last you a lifetime? Like if I get tired of DevOps or DevSecOps, I know that I could probably go hop over into chaos engineering because I have a set of skills that are unique, that are still needed, as a foundation in
Right.
that arena, right? And if I get tired of that, I can then hop over and say, well, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. I think I just want to do all security now, but I
Hmm.
still have that
You got
foundational
yeah, you
skills
got skills to do everything.
to do what I want to do, and not somebody dictate to me that you can only be a Java programmer or you can only, do X, Y, Z. Like I don't want to be that person. Like that
Hmm.
ain't it.
Got you. Trust me, I already know how it is. So, if we was to leave the guest with, we'll probably say we're doing. We'll you could probably do off the top of your head. So we'll say if we leave the guest right now with the top five skills they would need to work on to like either get in DevSecOps or Linux administration, you name it. What would be the top five that you would suggest that they learn?
uh Kubernetes, any cloud, pick a cloud. um under, Understanding security, and when I say security, that could be container security, security of the cluster when we're talking about Kubernetes, security of the actual operating system, or security of the actual instance itself or bare metal machine.
Hmm.
The other one would be automation or configuration management tool, where you can learn something like Puppet, Ansible, or Chef, or Terraform, or Cloud Formation. And then last but not least, I think is the silent one, right? I think it's a silent one is being able to, and this goes a long way, being able to network on with other teams other than the team that you're on, right? I think it's a silent one. I think it gets lost in that. And I think for me, I think GitLab falls into there. I think falls under automation for me. So I don't mention GitLab and GitHub and Jenkins. I think they
Hmm.
fall. I think you just I think you just do it. You just start utilizing those things. But I think the one is the silent one is the networking with other teams and customers. I think that goes a long way when you start looking at stuff. We ain't even mentioned how what you can do now could also be leveraged in tech sales as well too, because you understand
Hmm.
the big picture. You understand how the tools work, and you probably understand their pain points, so you can help direct them towards what they need to solve their problems.
Definitely, definitely. Let me see what we got right here. I think we can hear that. Yeah, it's coming through perfect. But yeah, man, this has been a dope episode. We probably gotta do another. I think eventually we'll do like a live panel or whatever it is.
That's fine. That works.
Because I know like it'll be cool to have some people maybe do some questions, especially if they had some more questions about trust or real estate or life insurance. What type of policy should I get at whatever age?
Yeah,
Those
like
are
I
all
said,
questions that I mean you find out the hard way when you get older. Hey, what's
right,
whole life? What's term? And then you figure out, oh, universal. You find out all
right,
these different things about life insurance
right,
as you get older. When you could have gotten a policy when you was like 18. It was super
right,
cheap for term, even if you had that much money.
right. Or you would, or your mom and dad already had one.
Right.
They've been
Definitely.
contributing to it this whole time, this whole life policy, and they've been contributing $50 a month ever since she was a kid, right?
Yeah, I
So,
got
and
two for
it's
my girls right now. Matter of fact.
yeah, and it gains interest over time, right? It's slow money, we ain't saying it's fast money, but we just have to have that conversation about why these things are important, and the money that you make, how you can type that up to do those things.
Yeah. But let's tell the listeners where they can reach out to you and contact you at in case they were interested in, want to learn some Linux skills.
Yep. So you can find me on social media throughout social media at Women in Linux. You can hit us up on womeninlinux.org. You can find me on YouTube at Women in Linux. I'm live. I'm live every Saturday. I got two shows: Tech Stocks and Jobs, and then How We Linux. And then we have our our Wednesday meetup, which is every Wednesday from 8 to 10 East Coast time, where we actually get into Linux. And sometimes we don't get into Linux. Sometimes we have guest speakers, and sometimes it may be just, hey, I'm looking for some advice on how to handle this situation at work. So sometimes we just chat, right? So, but we're there. And if you can't find us anywhere on social media other than that, you can always join us on our Slack group. If you hit connect on our actual website, it'll drop you down into putting your email address in and sign up for our Slack. And we're there every day, all day, 24/7. I'm not posting as much as I used to because we do so many lives now. So I say that information for Saturdays. But yeah, people think I was a robot, but I'm always there if need be. So you can find us there.
Oh, that's dope, man. Y'all already know where y'all can find me at Textual Chatter on all social sites, thetextualtalk.com for the podcast, and textualconsulting.com if you want to get some coaching. But it's been another banger as always. Like I say, let's stay textual.